Hello, welcome to Off the Shelf Reviews.
I don't talk about Fight Club.
I'm Gary.
And I'm Justine.
And today we're going to review and discuss Fight Club, which came out in 1999, based on the novel by Chuck Palahniuk and directed by David Fincher. Ian, why don't you give us the synopsis for Fight Club?
I don't talk about Fight Club.
Oh.
You do not talk about Fight Club.
Fight Club came out in 1999 and is the third feature film from David Fincher. Now, famously directed Alien 3 for 20th Century Fox and was interested in developing this into a feature film. Subsequently, 20th Century Fox brought the rights to the book to turn into a film. And so David Fincher was like, well, fuck that. I'm out. Until somebody who was in another division of 20th Century Fox went, look, come and do the movie with us. You're not going to have to work with those guys that you had to make Alien 3 with, okay? Not going to happen. So you can have the budget that you want, which is a $50 million+ budget, which was a very big gamble, a big risk for the studio to develop a script which they knew was controversial from the get-go. But they knew that Brad Pitt was going to be involved with David Fincher and then with Edward Norton, which let them go, okay, we'll see how this film goes. And the critical reception of this film's release in 1999, it stirred up a bit of chaos. And there was lots of people petitioning to get it banned, to get it removed, that it was filth, that it was degrading, that it was insulting, that people were offended by the material that's in there. And, you know, everybody else, though, they kind of got it. This film appeared in the top 100 best films ever list and has kind of been there ever since. Gradually it's sinking down,
Yeah.
but it's still in there.
I can't talk about Fight Club. I mean, that's just the fucking rules. But I can talk about the actors. I mean...
Well, there's several other rules.
Yeah, there's several. But the main two, you don't talk about Fight Club. You just don't.
It's funny you should say that as well, because this film also started lots of fight clubs around the world, which police are still investigating. And do you know why they've not been able to put a stop to it?
Because they're looking for Tyler Durden.
No, it's because they don't talk about Fight Club. And so they've not been able to bust these fight clubs for real.
Yeah. Brad Pitt, at this point, you know, he worked his way up the acting ladder.
And from a female, you know, when you think that he... he got his break, Thelma and Louise, Eye Candy, and he maintains that.
Well, yeah, I mean...
We say from a female perspective.
He's just come off the back of Seven with David Fincher, you know, and the character he portrays in this, it's just... It allows him to be free. You know, he's crazy. And then to balance that with Edward Norton, who, you know... Yeah, he's done a few films up to this point. American History X was probably one of his biggest ones. And people were like, well, really? You know, how's this white supremacist character kind of going to put himself into this film? And to balance that against the Brad Pitt character, it's a fucking match made in heaven.
It really is. They had such great chemistry together.
Yeah.
Well, they're just direct opposites. Brad Pitt is the epitome of the alpha male, in the way that he makes decisions, in the way that he doesn't conform, he doesn't do anything.
Yeah.
He refuses to play the system. He looks like a Greek Adonis, you know, in direct opposition to... Ed Norton does have a reputation for being, you know, he's a thinker, he's very cerebral, he's the one that gets those messages across, isn't he? I actually think Brad Pitt, I think Tyler's quite two-dimensional, if I'm to be honest with you, in some respects.
Well, I
but
mean...
that's how it works.
Yeah,
absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
Because he's in stark contrast to Edward Norton's character, who doesn't have a name. I mean, we can call him Jack or the narrator, but we never actually find out his real name. But we do find out who he is, and we find out that he's an insomniac. He's having troubles at work. He's feeling demasculated, and he is trying to find an out. You know, something to cling on to. And he explains throughout the introduction of the film, at the beginning of the film, we do see his brain firing off neurons, which was a very good CGI shot, which comes all the way back out of the barrel of the gun.
Yeah.
Where he then explains, I'll explain how I got into this situation.
Yeah.
Which cues his entire story. And so you find out that he's disenfranchised with everything. And he's trying to find an out. And he's at the doctor's. And the doctor's, he's trying to ask for medication. And he's like, I'm in pain. So he tells him to go to support groups, mainly the testicular cancer support group, which is where his life changes.
Yeah, but when Chuck Palahniuk wrote the book, he wrote it because he was in his early 30s, I believe, or it certainly reflected the early 30s, where, young men, young adults had been brought up within this capitalist society where you work hard and all of your dreams will come true. You can have your wife, you can have your car, you can have your children, you can have your house.
Yeah.
And he said, me and my mates, we got to that age and we were unhappy. We had all of this. We were climbing the career ladder, but we were desperately unhappy. There was something missing.
Yeah.
And that, according to him, was the main premise that was running through his novel.
Absolutely.
And
He also said that one of the key things that happened to him in life, which influenced the film as well, was when he went on a camping holiday, and there was some group of people nearby blasting music really loud. He was like, we're trying to go to sleep. So we went over there to tell them to turn it down, and they beat the shit out of him. And so, came back, packed up, went back home, went to work the next day, and everyone just went, oh, how was your weekend? He's got black eyes, cut lips, bruises, and they didn't go, oh, are you all right? They just went, how was your weekend? It's that social disconnect where they're asking a question and they don't even care what your answer is. It was a way of asking something so that they didn't have to pretend to care.
Yeah.
And that is what has helped build the novel and is transcribed into this film clearly.
Motherfucker! Hit me in the ear.
Helena Bonham Carter. I mean, I'll go on the limb and say she's a fabulous actress, fabulous British actress. I know a lot of people are like, well, when she does those Tim Burton films, she's married to him, and there's fucking two-dimensional, and she doesn't really change. She's done a lot in her career, and playing Marla Singer in this film, it's just a standout performance.
Oh, well, I loved her performance in this, especially because she made her name in Merchant Ivory.
Yeah.
Historical drama, your 18th century quintessential English
ladies.
Yeah.
And to see her morph into this chaotic, psychotic, perhaps.
Yeah.
Or certainly there's an element of psychosis there somewhere.
Yeah, she's got problems.
Oh, she's strong. I mean,
absolutely.
she matches the leads.
Yeah, totally.
She does.
She's able to walk into a scene and just own it by sitting there with that cigarette. And you can see
That
the people.
one shot, isn't it, where she sat there slowly coming in, you got the smoke drifting up in front of her face.
Yeah.
It's just, it looks iconic almost.
Yeah.
But still, in terms of what was important about Merchant Ivory, and it was the mise en scène, it was the costumes and this and that. And I think that plays a big role in her character as well, because when you first meet her, she's a little bit dirty and a little bit dishevelled, but in a kooky way.
Yeah.
And as this love story progresses,
Yeah.
she becomes uber glamorous, and we've got those soft focus shots on her face and her impeccable makeup, and I think that it was you that was saying actually that a makeup artist actually had to put her makeup on left-handed
Really?
to give at the beginning to make her look as kooky and chaotic,
Nice.
and then as the story
That's right, yeah.
transpires, she to the point where she's wearing this bridesmaid dress, and and she's beautiful,
And
she's beautiful.
that's the thing. I mean, it was probably going to start an argument, but I've seen Fight Club God knows how many times, but watching it for the review, I know what's going to happen, but I realised that for me personally, it's a love story.
Remember, stay out of major cities for at least a couple of days, okay?
Tyler, you're the worst thing that ever happened to me.
Edward Norton's character falls for Marla at a very early stage of the film, but he doesn't
denies it.
He doesn't realize it. He doesn't. Well, yeah, he denies it. He doesn't realize it. He's so disconnected from society and everything else around him. He's unable to, because we don't know about any past relationships that he's had. We don't know if he's been married or had girlfriends or anything. We don't know anything about that. But when he sees Marla, he's chasing her around. He talks to her probably more than he talks to anybody else at the start of the movie. They're trying to separate the support groups that they're both going to because he can't get her out of his mind.
Well, there's that, and there's the fact that she's blocking him from having his release, which is being able to freely and openly cry in front of people, and that's giving him an out, and her being there stops him from being able to act.
But that's because
she's a faker.
Yeah, but subconsciously, they're the same. They're both fakers.
Yes,
they're both fakers,
But I think
and that's
as
the
well,
connection to them.
Sorry, that there's an element of fear from him because she is not afraid.
Oh, she's
to
free. Yeah.
have conversation. She's not
Yeah.
afraid of those times in our lives where we are at our absolute lowest.
Yes.
She attends these support groups. She's pragmatic. She's,
Yeah.
and I think that perhaps subliminally, subconsciously, he knows he isn't well.
Yeah.
He knows he isn't well, and she could blow that open. And I
Yeah.
think perhaps there's a fear of that as well.
Yeah. He starts to have major problems when she starts coming to the groups, and that's when Tyler appears. He meets Tyler Durden on the plane.
Before you get into Tyler, I just want to bring up the comedy in the film as well.
Oh, okay, yeah.
and it's not immediately apparent on the first viewing because, they're going to support groups where everyone in there has had testicular cancer.
Mm-hmm.
The actors in the commentary said that they had the idea of actually going to real support groups just so they could get a feel for it, and they decided that that's actually a terrible idea.
Right, yeah.
Exploitative.
Very, because they realised that this film is almost parody as well.
Yeah.
And those support groups, they are, they're kind of hyper real. It's not real life, but they're almost pretending to be. And so the comedy's there when Marla comes into the testicular cancer group.
Yeah.
She's a woman.
Yes.
But then she says to the narrator, like, I've got more right being here than you because you still have yours.
Yeah.
And it's just like that dark humour that's there and continues throughout the film.
Between takeoff and landing, we have our time together, but that's all we get.
But then he meets Tyler on the plane, and, Brad Pitt, like I said, just looks so fucking cool. All he does is sell soap. And I'm like, how can you look that good by just selling soap? But, the narrator, Edward Norton's character, is just fascinated by it.
Did you know if you mixed equal parts of gasoline and frozen orange juice concentrate, you can make napalm?
Brad Pitt's character has this freedom that...
He's in control.
Yeah, that Edward Norton's character is missing. And
But he cuts the conversation, doesn't he? Brad Pitt, he's like, cut the crap. I want to know who you really are.
Yeah.
He doesn't do small talk.
No, but he's so smart as well, like the whole conversation about the oxygen mask on the plane, the little books that you get when you sat on the plane about when you're going to crash, and look how serene these people are.
Calm as Hindu cows.
Yeah, and that was the thing. The first time I watched it, my mind started going, oh, fuck. Shit, there's just an element of control that you may never realize that society is put on everything. That Brad Pitt's Tyler Durden character goes, you're not as free as you think you are. If you really, really want to be free, you really need to start letting go of all your shit. And obviously we've already seen that Edward Norton's character has a lot of shit.
That IKEA apartment pan across where all the details and descriptions of everything that's in his apartment is just catalogued.
Yeah.
And it is perfect. It immediately sets him up as being this, the guy who believes in commercialism, loves to buy everything that he's been told that he needs to buy.
Well, that's it. He's got all this money coming in, but he's got nothing to spend it on. He's got no wife, no children, no pets.
He was told that would make him feel complete.
Yeah.
Happy.
So spending as much money as he can on IKEA shit that he
I
doesn't
love that
ever
scene.
need.
And it's this clinical, isn't it? Scandinavian produce as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so when he gets back off the plane, goes back to his apartment, it's blown up. All of his possessions have been destroyed.
Yeah.
You can see his yin-yang table kind of ruined, on the ground. And it was at this point as well that I noticed my first Starbucks coffee cup in the debris. And this is a bit of trivia that David Fincher has kind of let on, is that in every single shot of the entire movie, there is a Starbucks coffee cup hidden, either in view or actually obscured behind something, so therefore out of view, but it's there. And he made the conscious decision to do it because, of course, lots of films have product placement.
Yeah.
Now, granted, Starbucks had paid, for the film to have their product put into the film. And so Fincher, as a joke, put it in every shot of the film.
I knew this, and so I was specifically looking, and I don't think it's in every single shot.
Not in every shot, no, but it's in almost every scene. It's in every scene.
I mean, I remember, like, you got him in the office block at the beginning when he's looking around and he says he's suffering from insomnia, and there's a couple of people there with coffee cups, and so I was like, fucking scanning every single scene. But it's like as I got to the end of the film, you got that shot of him running down the street with all the notepads, and I'm looking, I'm like, there's no fucking coffee cup there.
It could be in the pavement, in the curb,
Yeah, but I was
thrown over.
I was looking, and I was just like, no, because it would have to be really hidden to go, oh yeah, it's there, but
But the joke is on them as well, isn't it? He could not have accepted that sponsorship from Starbucks with a message that's running so strongly of shallow commercialism. Without having this iconic doing something with this iconic disposable
it's a weird
coffee
kind
tin
of
that avoids paying their taxes and contributing to society, but we won't get started on that.
It's a kind of weird selling out thing from David Fincher to say, I'm going to sell out, but I'm going to sell out in my own way.
Right.
I'm going to make it a message
Yeah.
that I'm selling out.
Yeah,
and I like that.
So his apartment's been blown up, and he calls up Tyler because he finds Marla's number, but he's still afraid to call her. At that point, it's like the one thing that's from his apartment that's kind of survived is Marla's number. And there's that moment where it's just like, he calls her, he doesn't say anything, and he hangs up. And it's because he's afraid. Like I said, for me personally, it's a love story. He's afraid to make that first step to contact her. And this is where he calls Tyler up. And it's a great conversation because he actually doesn't say his name. He's just like, I'm the guy on the plane. And Tyler's like, oh, okay then. I'm like, who fucking does that in normal life? I'm the guy on the plane. Which guy? The pilot?
Tyler?
Who is this?
We met on the airplane. We had the same suitcase. The clever guy.
Oh yeah, right.
But you just go with it because Fincher had written or developed the script so well that you don't ever know Edward Norton's character's name.
Yeah.
And you just go with it. And they meet up at the bar and they're talking.
I just want to say that the sequence in the bar was mostly ad-libbed. They improvised the dialogue.
Oh, brilliant.
And it just fits so well.
Yeah, yeah. And it's like what you said about the comedy thing. It's just popped in my head. I always really loved the Chloe conversation.
Oh dear.
Where she stood there and she's like, I haven't got very long to live and I'm really lonely, but I want to get laid, so I've got pornographic material, I've got lube, I've got this, I've got that. And I'm thinking, Jesus Christ, in normal life there'd be like 4 guys lining up like, yeah, okay.
But again though, it's another reference, isn't it, to the shallowness of society, that love is presented through sex and pornography, and when you start digging, but the fact that it's a very dark humour.
I gotta admit, the first time I watched the film, I was just like, yeah, I've done it.
No.
Fucking hell yeah.
You are a nightmare.
The woman is lonely. And she's got all the stuff there. If I can make her happy for 5 minutes, then yeah, fuck it.
Good Samaritan,
Yeah, fuck it. Help out your fellow man and all that.
I'm so close to the end, and all I want is to get laid for the last time. I have pornographic movies in my apartment, and lubricants and anal nitrate.
Thank you, Chloe.
But they come out of the bar, and Tyler's just like, come on, fucking ask me.
Well, they've just had all those conversations about how the narrator feels about having lost all of his stuff.
Yeah.
And it's like, that completed him. That's made him who he is. And
Yeah.
Brad Pitt's just tearing all that down. And so, yeah, when they go outside...
They go outside and he's just like, just ask me. You want to stay with me, but you won't ask. And it's, you know, it's another thing of Edward Norton's character, that he's afraid to make those connections. He's afraid to talk to people. And it's just like, right, okay, I'll let you stay with me, but you got to hit me. And it's the start of the thing we don't talk about.
He says about how can you know that much about yourself if you've never been in a fight before?
Yeah.
And, you know, and that question probably rings true for a lot of people, because a lot of people would not openly just engage in a fist fight if they could avoid it.
Yeah.
And so Tyler Durden's character starts speaking like mini truths that have, you know, they have a basis in reality, but are still very skewed to lead the narrator down his point of view, really.
Well, it's like what he says. He says it a couple of times through the film, where he's just like, we're the hunter-gatherers. We're the fucking men of society. We're supposed to be going out there and doing all this
So he's
stuff
kind of embodying
to support
those
our
masculine
tribes.
traits.
Yeah, but we are not. We've been looked after by women our whole entire lives, that we're happy just to walk through life and not give a care. Where, you know, like you said, some people will never get into a fight, but other people are, you know, all they want to do is fight. You know, it's something about releasing all that pent-up aggression and rage.
I think you've hit the nail on the head there. It is incredibly symbolic of that level of frustration, that being unable to find priority in life, and it numbs it.
Yeah. And there's the problem.
It numbs it. And instead of going to the gym, lifting something heavy, going for a run, you know, it's that pain. It's that pain. And that first fight is really, well, of course it's a turning point for him, because it's his first, you know, but it's the first time he lets go through the pain. And it's a form of self-harm.
Yeah.
There's no doubt about it.
Yeah.
It has the same psychological
He's hurting,
release attached to it.
They're hurting each other to feel alive, because at that point, before they start hitting each other, well, not so much Tyler, but it's definitely Edward Norton's character, he's numb to society.
It's, I mean, taking that first fight point there as well to much later in the film, where he gives him the chemical burn. And, you know, he's just like, I chemical burnt myself. But he's just like, you know, a lot of people, you know, they think about the past, they think about the future, but they're forgetting that you live in the here and the now.
Yeah.
And that pain that is being inflicted upon you here and now, feel it, experience it, because that you're alive right now.
Yeah.
And that
Sounds
fight
like
sequence.
You got that from a self-help group. Guys.
Well, that's the kind of the whole meaning of Tyler's existence. I mean, in the DVD print of the film, after the copyright warning that comes up, there is one frame or almost a second of another warning that comes up. And it's from Tyler Durden himself. And it's a big block of text like, if you have paused the film and you're reading this message, then this message is for you.
It's just wasting your time.
And it's like, you are wasting your time. Get off the couch. Turn the film off. Go and meet a member of the opposite sex. Go and do this. Go and do that. Get a life.
Yeah.
Signed Tyler Durden. And then the film starts.
Yeah. But I love that whole Edward Norton explanation of who Tyler Durden is. I mean, the fucking cinema sequence. You know, he cuts. I mean, it kind of shows how dated the film is as well.
Really.
Yeah, but it shows how dated the film is in a way, because they're still using cinema reels. And yet, you know, the film doesn't look dated unless little things start to pop up. And he cuts in that one cock into a
single frame
into a kid's film. And the thing that blew my mind was like, Edward Norton's like, yeah, he spends his night cutting reels and getting them all ready and stuff like that. And I'm like, well, why are these families here at night with their children?
How do you know it's nighttime? It's just dark in the theatre.
Yeah, I know. It's nitpicking. But it's the fact that you got all the families sat there and then all you hear is, oh! And then it comes back and all the children are like...
All of the girls is crying.
Didn't they do that with Disney, though?
Nobody knows that they saw it, but they did.
Nice big cock.
That's the point, isn't it? It's subversion.
But that subliminal image that went up, that he cuts into it, we're already aware as an audience, because we've had
Flashes,
intercut frames throughout the film of Tyler Durden appearing. And also, just at the very end of the film, there is another flash shot of the penis cut into this film.
Yeah.
The thing that I love the most about that explanation sequence is when he mentions the cigarette burns.
Yes.
And when he points up and you see the cigarette burn, because you don't see them anymore.
No.
It's only in old films that you would see them.
And I love the fact that it breaks the fourth wall.
Well, yeah, because the narrator's now literally talking to the audience.
But that's it. You know, you think you're sitting down to watch a film, and then Edward Norton just looks directly at you and just makes this whole explanation, and it just draws the audience in more.
Yeah.
Which I think if they hadn't put it in, you know, the film wouldn't have been as impactful as it was, because you're just being, oh, it's a film. But now you've got him talking to you, and later on you have it Tyler Durden talking directly to you.
Yeah.
It looks like he's looking around, and then it just starts to focus right on you.
The camera starts to shake, and on either side of the frame, you can see the film reel coming in and out of the frame. So it is fourth wall breaking massively.
Yeah.
You were the all-singing, all-dancing crap of the world.
So he has his first fight, realizes that it's incredibly cathartic, and starts to attract an audience of like-minded people.
Yeah.
They all come out of the bar and they're just like, can we fight?
Yeah. Who's next?
And so, Tyler and the narrator set up a fight club in Lou's bar. And, you know, there's lots of people there fighting. And that's when Tyler gives the rules of Fight Club. And there are 6 or 7 rules.
Yeah.
And the 8th and final rule. If this is your first night at Fight Club, you have to fight.
And of course, the first 2 rules are the most famous, but the other rules basically, you know, it's quite well structured for an underground fight club to have these rules to protect the fighters.
Yeah.
Which is, you know, 2 men to a fight, no shoes, no belts. When the person goes limp, screams stop, or taps out, the fight's over. And I'm like, it's very safe.
I love that last rule though. It's like, if this is your first night, you have to fight. And I was just like, I remember the first time I was watching it, part of me was just like, man, I really need to find a fight club. You know, I've got a lot of rage. I need to let it out.
As a society at the time, certainly in the UK, it was at the time of a huge revival in actual cage fighting.
I mean, bare knuckle boxing has been around for centuries, hasn't it?
You know, at this, and Fight Club obviously contributed to it, but there was a huge rise in, you know, martial arts getting together, and it was every city, every town had a form of cage fighting club, and based on those rules.
I think it's also interesting that 20th Century Fox, when they came to marketing this film, had no idea how to sell it. And so when the trailers were put together for the film, it was all about the Fight Club, the rules of Fight Club, and the trailer consisted of men punching each other. It did away with all of the other material that the film's really about, because they didn't know how to sell it.
Yeah,
they
well,
put
there
those
would be
trailers.
spoilers as well, though.
They put those trailers at WWE events, at fighting arenas. The trailers for Fight Club were playing. David Fincher lost his fucking mind. He was like, "What have you done? Like, you are not selling the film we've made." And so when people went to the theater to see it, they were like, "This is not the fucking film you advertised to us." And that's because the Fight Club, they just thought that's the big part of it. But it's actually only the small part of the actual film.
But it's so well structured as well that, you know, I'm pretty sure word of mouth got around. You know,
the controversy about it.
Yeah, but I mean, like, I don't mean this harshly, but intelligent film watchers, you know, yes, the film's called Fight Club, and yes, there's lots of violent scenes of guys beating the shit out of each other, but, you know, like we said, the commercialism, the letting go, are you free or are you just a prisoner? You know, people started to go, you need to see Fight Club. Why? Oh, you just need to see it. You know, there's
you need
messages.
to be enlightened.
There's layers in there. You need to be enlightened that, you know, you're in a prison that you may have constructed yourself or have walked into and unknowingly thought about it. I mean, look at Tyler's house. I love that fucking house. It reminds me of the Addams family's house. You know, it's run down. It's falling apart. They've got to turn the electric off every time it rains.
The basement's flooded. There's holes in the roof.
And it's like when he says to Tyler, he's like, "Where's your car?" And Tyler's like, "What car?" And you'd already seen him jump in this really fast car, and you're like, "Well,
he stole
that because the guy goes chasing after him." That's my car.
I didn't even see that guy, actually. I didn't see that guy.
But sometimes, even when you are an intelligent viewer, I think, that violence is so brutal that it's almost pornographic. And I think as a mainstream film, it was one of the first. I know that it had to be cut an awful lot and edited an awful lot to get it in a very shadily got through the censors even then.
Well, they seem
but in its day, it was brutal. And you as an audience, you feel that you know, it's...
They seem so happy after as well. You
no
know,
holds barred.
They're slapping each other on the back and smiling.
It's because they never felt so alive as that point right there.
Yeah, you got that guy in the suit and tie. He's like, I'm next. You know, and you don't know who he is or where he's come from, but I look at him, I'm like, he looks like a family man, he looks like a businessman, he looks like he's really upset and depressed, and he probably goes home and fucks his wife harder after the fight because he's like you said,
he's a man.
Well, because he feels more alive. You know, he's now reattached to society, kind of thing. You know,
in a healthier way, though. It's debatable.
Very debatable.
Very debatable.
Thank you. You know, and at the point where Tyler is giving the rules, it becomes apparent that he is a general. He is leading this.
Yes.
The structure starts to get a lot more ominous as the film progresses through Project Mayhem, but that is the point where he is starting to create an army.
Yes.
You know, with the rules and regulations attached to that.
That's right, yeah. And so he does, you know, he complains to them that there are more members turning up for each Fight Club, and that's because they've been breaking the rules and talking about Fight Club. But the relationship between Marla, Tyler and the narrator is all advanced quite a bit at this point.
Yes.
Where Tyler and Marla are having sex. The narrator's getting really upset about it. There's lots of bickering. You know, there's lots of confusion there.
Thinking about it though, actually, it's just popped in my head. Do you think, obviously trying to avoid spoiler territory, while Tyler is having sex with Marla and the narrator is hearing it and getting more and more pissed off, is it kind of like a subconscious homosexual thing that he was,
yes.
You know, he wanted this relationship with Tyler, you know, and because, like we said, we didn't know about his past or any relationships he's had, and he struggled trying to connect with Marla, that now he's connected with Tyler, that he's just like, I'm going to get with him, we're feeling all manly, and now Tyler's off fucking somebody else.
He definitely feels threatened by that relationship.
Yeah.
And because he said, you know, him and Tyler have both said, you know, it's the last thing we need is another woman in our lives.
Yeah.
Whilst Tyler continues to have sex with Marla, which, does leave the narrator a bit confused, but because of his attachment with Tyler, and he feels threatened again when he bumps back into Bob on the street.
Yeah.
And Bob's just like, look, I don't go to the support group anymore. I found another one.
Yeah.
Have you ever heard of Fight Club? There's this great leader called Tyler Durden who set it all up. And you see the narrator deflate a little bit. He was like, I set that up with him. Why don't you know what my name is?
Yeah.
That's funny because no one knows what your name is.
Yeah. And it's these little points that you start to question what's going on, because, you know, it's like when Marla's finished having sex with Tyler and she comes down the stairs and she's talking to the narrator and he's giving her shit, telling her to get out of his house, and she looks really upset, like what the fuck's going on, you know? And then she goes and Tyler comes into the room.
I don't think she's upset. I love Marla because she's actually quite feisty, and she's like, "Fuck you."
Well, of course she's upset.
And she flounces off, doesn't she, with her little walk, and she's, you know.
But it's like Tyler says to him, like, "Don't ever mention me to her," and I sit there going, how does that work? You know, she's having sex with you, but it's like what Edward Norton would say. Neither of them were in the same room at the same time. And it was like when he was a kid and his parents were getting divorced and he was giving messages back. And so he's now stuck in this rut because Tyler's over here and Marla's over there, and he kind of wants to be with both of them. But he's not sure which one he really wants to be with.
A part of Marla as well is that she is that desperate cry for help where she's constantly waiting to die, and her biggest tragedy is the fact that she doesn't.
Yeah.
And so she tries to commit suicide, and then of course rings the narrator, and she's like, "Do you want to listen to me die on the telephone?"
Yeah.
And she does it again later where she's like, "I think I've got breast cancer. You need to come round and check."
Yes.
Feel anything?
No.
We'll make sure.
So one of the best sequences I think in the film is where Edward Norton is just he's tired of his job. He's been turning up late taking time off, bruises, bleeding teeth. You know, he doesn't want to be at work anymore. He's hated his job since the beginning of the film.
I love that moment where his boss comes to him with the sheet of Fight Club rules that was left in the photocopier.
Yeah, and he does that whole talk about, whoever wrote this would probably walk around with a semi-automatic machine gun and shoot their colleagues. So I'd avoid that person if I was you.
The studios are still asking David Fincher to cut that sequence from the film, and he's like, I can't, because Marla rings up halfway through it and it cuts into the breast cancer thing.
Yeah.
So he's like, I can't cut that sequence.
Can't cut that sequence. But it's so honest and real as well.
Well, this film was a few years before Columbine shooting and, of course, before 9/11.
Yes.
So.
Yeah. But, I mean, that's not David Fincher's fault, is it, really?
Well.
Prophetic.
Yeah. But he confronts his boss over some details of their job, because he works for a car recall service, and he's been traveling around the country finding all these cars that have had faults in and where people have died, but the company aren't recalling it, so more people's lives are at risk. And so he confronts his boss in his office and says, right, basically, you keep me on the payroll and I do this job from home and nobody will ever find out about these details. And the boss is like, are you fucking kidding me? Are you taking the piss? And goes to call security to kick him out. And Edward Norton just starts beating the shit out of himself.
Yeah, he throws himself through the glass table, throws himself through the shelf. He's got blood all over his face. He crawls through the glass right up to his boss, and he's kind of pleading with him. And that's when the security break in. And of course, you can see how it looks from their perspective. But you just see him walking through the office with his box of possessions, just smiling, just blood dripping out of his face.
But I love that little line as well. And obviously, it'll become apparent later on in the film where he says that while he's beating the crap out of himself, what he was thinking of was the first fight with Tyler.
Yeah.
And obviously, spoilers, but it's very it builds up to what will come later on.
It's a direct link, isn't it? That first fight with Tyler was his changing point. This fight at work again was a changing point. It's when he is making decisions to let go.
Yeah, and he does, and he's just
what a way to let go.
And he's just like, now we can do Fight Club 7 days a week.
Yeah.
And you're just like, damn. But then they're in Lou's bar, and Lou comes down. Who the fuck are you guys? What the fuck are you? Well, who the hell are you? Well, the name out there says Lou, and I'm fucking Lou.
He's that gangster, isn't he? Old school.
He says that the guy who usually runs the bar that let them have the fight clubs in hospital with a broken collarbone.
From a fight.
Yeah. And so Lou comes over and starts beating the shit out of Tyler, who of course is not fighting back.
Yeah.
And it is a mess.
I think it's a little bit. It's
fighting back
quite
psychologically
deeply as well, because you have this guy who relies on his bodyguard, his minion with his gun, who projects this image of
tough guy.
Yeah, tough guy, old school Chicago gangster type. But he forces him to let go even. It's about these labels that we have attached to ourselves and our own identities. And he goads him, and it's almost like...
It's humorous as well.
Be a man,
but I also think it's also sacrifice as well. Tyler is sacrificing himself to show the rest of the group that he will do anything to keep this club going.
Well, it's also the same as the fact that we've just had the narrator beat himself up.
Yeah.
Now Tyler has himself beaten up.
Yeah.
So they're both now visually looking messed up. But then it's where he hands out homework assignments to the fight club, telling everyone else now to go out and get yourself beaten up. Start a fight and get yourself beaten up, which is what the two leads have just had done to them.
Yeah.
And again, we have another hilarious sort of montage where these fighters are out there trying to pick fights. You've got the guy in the car park. You've got the guy, the mechanic with a hose, hosing down the priest.
You've got Big Bob trying to run around. I mean, I don't know if we brought it up, but Meatloaf. I love
Meatloaf.
I'd only seen him in Rocky Horror up to this point.
Right.
And I knew
I've seen his music videos. Though.
Yeah, I knew him as this big ass singer, and I was just like, well, okay, it's Meatloaf. And then when you see him as Big Bob with those tits, you're like, fuck me, this guy can act as well, like really well. I mean, after this, you'd see him in 50 First States with Samuel Jackson and Robert Carlyle. I love him as the Lizard in that as well. But you just see him running around after that guy on the bike, and he's just like, It's bobbling all over the place.
Again, there was another point of controversy with the studio when they saw the dailies coming back and they saw the size of the nipples on Bob's bitch tits. And
they look so real.
They do.
Rob Bottin, he was told that the studios were not too impressed with them, and so somebody was, when they were driving on a bus or something, they saw a woman on the side of the street with big ass nipples coming through her top, and they took a picture and sent it back up to the studio and went, "No, that's real. It happens."
Yeah.
And so they went, "Okay, keep it."
Yeah.
The studio just conceded. They're like, "All right, Fincher, keep it." And it was Rob Bottin, legendary special effects makeup artist from John Carpenter's works, through lots of David Fincher works as well, including Seven. Made a full fat suit for Meatloaf, who at this point had lost a lot of his weight.
Yes, yeah.
And so they had to beef him up, and it's all made out of bird seed.
Really?
Yeah, just so it has the weight, and so that it gives the overhang and makes it look realistic.
Yeah,
just lots of bird seed.
Because it's the way he kind of carries himself over, and then he uses that against Edward Norton in the fight.
Yeah.
Because Edward Norton can't beat him.
But for all that it's disparaging against women and mothering and this, he is the best hugger.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And Ed Norton does like to
just hug him.
Have a hug in between those bosoms, doesn't he?
Or who else? Who wouldn't?
Yeah.
Who wouldn't?
Oh, Iain, you're
What?
incredible.
What?
Nothing.
But Project Mayhem has started. They start getting their first few applicants at the house, and I do love that they make them stand outside for 3 days. They belittle them. They talk them down. And
it's like boot camp training in a way, but
they have to lose their identity to become part of this membership. And I love that way that Bob stood there and he gets fucking given shit by Brad Pitt and goes to walk off, and Edward Norton runs up to him and says, no, come back. It's kind of like Bob is probably like the one person he has really connected to, more than Marla, more than Tyler. He really cares for Bob. And that will become apparent later on in the film, because Project Mayhem start getting all these applicants in, and they start doing some really crazy shit. The smiley face on the side of the building. They're fucking up restaurants.
I love they blow up that the statue outside, the big globe ball.
The big globe ball, yeah.
Which of course was supposed to crash through a Starbucks cafe.
Yeah.
Yes. But it's just an unknown coffee made up brand.
Yeah.
But even that shot itself was well done. It was shot live, but they couldn't do it properly, so the ball is CGI. They had to CGI the crew trying to hold the ball down because it was so light, it was bouncing. When it hit the water of the fountain, it just floated and stopped. Yeah. It didn't have the momentum to crash through, so all the chairs and glass breaking, all CGI.
Really?
And you just can't tell.
Yeah, I just couldn't.
But I mentioned earlier that the CGI was starting to date a little bit, but with the good camera work, with those shots where the camera's going around the gas cooker.
Yeah.
And then later on when it's going through the car park.
Yeah.
It's all CGI stuff, but it still
amazing.
looks very good.
And as the film is progressing, the narrator is getting more and more hints that his apartment was blown up on purpose. And he's starting to get more and more information from Tyler that Tyler loves making soap, but add a few chemicals here and a little few things here, you'll get nitroglycerine, you'll get dynamite. And so you start to question, was Tyler the one who blew up the apartment to get hold of the narrator?
Well, yes.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Because after they've got the place from Lou, and they're setting up these assignments, they manage to get a hold of a car and they're driving along, and I'll talk about it later on, but Tyler and Edward Norton are arguing in the car, because Edward Norton is upset that there's all these other fight clubs set up. You've set up this Project Mayhem stuff without talking to me. You're doing all this crazy stuff, and you're not involving me, and yet we're supposed to be friends. They've already kind of attacked the police commissioner at his dinner. Yeah. And he's had to just beat the shit out of Jared Leto for no fucking reason apart from the fact Jared Leto looks so good. But Brad Pitt says to him in the car, he's just like, if you were going to die now, what would you regret? And the two guys in the back are talking about what they would regret. I'd paint a self-portrait. I'd build a house. And Edward Norton has no idea. And so he purposely crashes the
Violence.
car. Yeah, he purposely crashes the car to make Edward Norton feel alive again, because still at this point, Edward Norton is still receding back. Every time something comes along as a speed bump, be it Marla or Project Mayhem, he starts to go back into his shell, detach himself from everybody else. And it's Tyler trying to pull him out, say, you fucking live for fuck's sake. But he leaves him. Tyler leaves Edward Norton and disappears. And when Edward Norton wakes up the next day, Project Mayhem is in full effect.
Yeah.
You know, they have all got their assignments, they've all got their missions, they've all got their details to check out. And yet Edward Norton has no clue about what's going on or who to talk to. Where's Tyler? We don't talk about Project Mayhem. Yeah, but you need to talk. We don't talk about Project Mayhem. And you're just like, yeah, you've detached yourself, but you've forgotten the rules of what makes everything work. And it's at this point, after he's had his confrontation with Marla and sent Marla on her way again, that they bring Big Bob's dead body into the house.
Yeah, yeah. They put him on the table and they explain that they did a job and they started getting shot at.
Yeah.
And yeah, they reveal that his brain's been blown out the back of his head.
Oh, it's gory.
And it is gory as well, because you can hear it all hitting the ground.
Yeah.
It's just, yeah. And they have that kind of poignant moment where they're just like, you know, we'll just bury him out the back and be done with it.
Yeah.
But of course, you know, Edward Norton's just like, no, this was Robert, this is Bob. He had a personality. He was a friend of mine. We can't just bury him.
And yeah, that's what I mean with the connection, that he's upset now that his friend is dead.
And, you know, he finds out, just like the audience, that the Project Mayhem, they have no identity. They all wear the same clothes, they all have shaved heads, and they don't have names. But then they decide through what Edward Norton's actions that maybe in death they do have a name. Yeah. And they all start chanting Robert Paulson.
His name was Robert Paulson.
And that's classic cult behaviour, isn't it?
Absolutely. Yes.
Take your name, take over an identity, but at death, which is the most important, one of the most important events, you can reclaim all of that and you have the love of your family who will honour and respect you. It's military.
Yeah.
And tribal.
Yeah.
You know, it is very, very tribal. It's getting back to basics in its most animal form.
Yes.
In its pack mentality.
Yeah.
Which
well, it's the fact that
we are a pack animals. We are a social species.
This cult that they're in, it's taken all of their identities away, but it's kind of like, but what identities did they have before they got to this point? Were they coming from the same background as Edward Norton, or were they just looking for the same release? Because they feel like they have more of an identity now as a small group than as an individual.
Yeah, but they are being controlled, and I think that this film absolutely stands the test of time. But I think that it is much more. It has a much more ominous tone post 9/11.
Yes.
Now, what you have are terrorist cells making explosives out of materials that you can find on the high street. Pretty much.
It should be said though that, you know, with Project Mayhem, they don't hurt anybody.
No.
You know, the assignments were to go out there and lose a fight. You know, when the big plan of Project Mayhem is to blow up all the major banks.
Yeah.
You know, and reset the debt to zero for everyone.
And yet
Edward Norton screams out, "It's like, well, all the people in the buildings," and Tyler's just like, everyone that was in those buildings is a member of Project Mayhem.
Yeah, there's
no one
there.
is going to get hurt in these explosions.
Yeah.
But then, of course, 9/11, you see those buildings come down. The debris fields from these buildings coming down is massive.
Yeah.
But at least, you know, as a terrorist group, they're not out to hurt anybody.
They're out to make a message.
Do we even know what city this is set in?
LA.
Is it?
I think it is a nameless city, but it's very much LA.
Because that's what I was just thinking, actually. You know, much like Seven again.
Yeah, nameless city.
You know, it's another nameless city.
I think the idea is that it could be any city.
Yeah. But he does chase up Tyler. Edward Norton's now like, he needs to find Tyler. He needs to know what's going on because he's not getting anywhere, and everything seems to be getting, in his mind, a little bit out of control. And so he starts following all the ticket stubs. He goes to the different cities. He's always saying he's 2 steps behind Tyler. You know, he can smell a fight club as soon as he steps off the plane, the dry blood on the floor or the teeth, you know, and he sees that guy behind the bar with the fucking head brace on. And the guy starts to say to him, like, but you're Tyler. And Edward Norton's like, no, I'm looking for Tyler. No, sir, you were in here last week. You were stood right there. You asked me if everything was all right, and I gave you the answer. And you start to go, oh, well, what? And it's when he gets back to his hotel room that Tyler is there.
Answer me, why do people think that I'm you?
I think you know.
And you start to realize that everything that Tyler has done is all in Edward Norton's head. Or Tyler is in Edward Norton's head, but everything that Tyler has done, Edward Norton was doing.
Right. Yeah.
And it's just such a cool twist, because Tyler has been so real. And in the he
more alive than
it's jaw drop. The first
Yeah.
time, you never forget the first
No,
time.
you don't.
It's Sixth Sense, on par with Sixth Sense, isn't it? Where you
Yeah.
what?
Because
What just happened there in 3 seconds?
even though the clues were there
Yeah.
throughout the film.
Oh,
Yeah.
but it's what makes watching it again and again and again.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Because then
So
you had in the
satisfying.
whole, schizophrenic element to the narrator's character, which is not there on the first viewing.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's Tyler only exists when he says Tyler only exists when he's like asleep, and yet he, it's like when he's having sex with Marla is when he's having a nap, or when he's blacked out because he's been awake for fucking 3 weeks or whatever. But it's when you look back at the film and he's in the background, like you said, with the general sequence, Brad Pitt's there
They blur
giving
him
the
out.
rules.
They blur,
Yeah.
where they're together in the scene.
Yeah.
At the beginning, they blur him out, if you notice as well.
And then it just flips in this montage sequence where we start seeing all the things that we thought Tyler was doing is actually all the stuff that Edward Norton was doing. And you start to realize, that for me, that's where I started to realize, fuck, that's why Marla is so pissed at you. Because she was getting in with this relationship with Tyler, who she thought was our character.
Well, I guess she was getting into a relationship with both of them.
There's only one guy.
Yes, I know, but his split personality, she was, dating both of them. She was aware of both of
She didn't
them.
realize that. She thought he was Tyler. She thought he was Tyler, and he acted like Tyler. But it's only when
In the bedroom. Maybe?
Mainly. But when she would see him, like that first sequence where she comes downstairs and she sees him at the dinner table, that's why she gets so pissed off and so upset, because he's telling her to get the fuck out after they've just spent the whole night together, and she is now feeling more alive because maybe she's found her partner, but now he's telling her to get the fuck out.
Well, even the sex was quite extreme, though. In fairness, it was an eroticism based on the fact that she was about to die, and would he like to listen to her death rattle? It was like, whoa, hang on a second.
He'd been holding it in for a while.
Yeah, but when Tyler gets up in the morning, he's like, whoa, some weird chicks. So at least you.
It's when
Like,
Edward
okay,
Norton.
what have they been up to?
It's when Edward Norton's walking past the bedroom when they're having sex, and he opens the door, and Brad Pitt's just stood there completely naked with 2 rubber gloves on, and she falls off the bed, and all you hear is, "Hey, I found cigarettes."
His body in that scene is ridiculous.
Yeah, I know.
It is ridiculous.
Yeah. I did notice something. I don't know if you guys noticed it. It's when he's realised, obviously, all this crazy shit's going on, and Brad Pitt said to him, "Look, we need to deal with Marla now." And so he chases back to Marla and tries to explain everything to her in this coffee shop, and she's not having any of it, but he's also trying to get her on a bus to send her out of the city. And while they're talking on the street, there's a cinema in the background, and it's got 7 Years of Tibet on it. And I was like, oh, it's another Brad Pitt film. Yeah.
What, 7? Or 7 Years in Tibet?
7 Years in Tibet. I was like, yeah, because I didn't know if that had maybe come out at the same time or maybe just before.
Yeah.
But I remember it hadn't done as well. So I think it was kind of David Fincher's, how film directors go, look, you thought that was good? Now this is better.
It's called a changeover. The movie goes on, and nobody in the audience has any idea.
So Project Mayhem is culminated in the fact that they've planted all these explosives in all of these buildings.
Yeah.
Narrator has told Marla to get out of town. He's had the realization that Tyler doesn't exist. And Tyler kind of torments him when he gets to one of the banks.
Yeah.
He appears on the other side of the glass.
I love that.
But he manages to break his way through, and he manages to find the van filled with nitroglycerin, and he's trying to defuse the bomb. And Tyler's just like, nah, you don't want to pull the green one. Definitely not the green one. He pulls the green one anyway. And then he starts shooting a gun at Tyler. He was warning him. He's like, you're going to blow us up. You're going to kill us both if you do this.
See, and it's at that point, like I said, when he was fighting in his boss's office and he says, I thought about the first fight. It's because the first fight he had with Tyler wasn't real.
He was fighting himself, self-harming.
Self-harming. So this fight in the boss's office is him self-harming again. And now he's fighting himself
and you
again
get to see it through the security footage.
Yes.
Yeah. You see the bullets going through, and that's when it becomes visually real.
Yeah.
You know, academically it's real at this point, but visually.
Yeah. He's throwing himself
Because
down
even
the
at this
stairs.
point, you might still be going, but is he an imaginary friend?
But he looks the same. And
Yes.
yeah, he looks solid, and he looks, you know, and it's.
I love that.
Brilliant.
I love that little joke as well, where it cuts back to him with the gun in his mouth, just like we saw at the beginning, and he says, "Have you got any last words?" And Edward Norton's like, "Oh," and he pulls the gun out and he says, "What'd you say?" And Edward Norton goes, "I still can't think of anything." And Brad Pitt goes, "Flashback humor." I was like, "Oh man, it's just brilliant." I never realised it.
I'm sorry. I still can't think of anything.
Flashback humor.
But yeah, I guess the big moment is where he realises the gun's not in Tyler's hand, but in his own hand.
Yes.
And so he puts the gun back in his mouth and pulls the trigger, but blows out the side of his face. But the imaginary friend thinks he's been shot straight through, and so the imaginary friend kind of dies.
Well,
do you think he meant to do that? Do you think he meant to shoot through the side of his mouth? I've always wondered about that.
I think
Do you think it was purposeful?
Yeah,
I do as well.
It was
I wanted
purpose
to trick his brain.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, he was aiming to hurt himself to get rid of Tyler. He needed to get rid of Tyler. He'd kind of garnered control back over his life at this point. You know, everything he had done was mayhem and anarchy, and he just needed to reconnect order. I think when he shot himself, it was just blind luck that the bullet went out.
You think?
Yeah, it was just luck that it just gone out
on purpose.
But the fact that he had caused himself such a traumatic injury, it killed Tyler.
But that was his final decision, you know. And you see their levels, their pain thresholds,
And it was
rising
his
and
free
rising
decision.
and rising.
You know, I mean, I'd have to go back and watch it again, but did he make any decision in the film? You know, or was it
made all the decisions?
Well, yeah, he did. He did make all decisions. But you know, was it in his mind? Was it Tyler? You know, was he justifying his actions by Tyler telling him to do it? And so that final gunshot is his own free will saying,
Yeah, I think so.
"Fuck this," you know. But it's just so poignant as well, where the Project Mayhem members bring Marla in, and he just turns to her and she's like, "Oh my God, you know, you're injured." And he's like, "Yeah, no, it's fine. You know, you've met me at a really strange time in my life."
Such a great line.
Iconic line.
And they stand there and just watch the buildings just explode and come down. And like I said, it was at this point in my God knows umpteenth time of watching Fight Club, but when you see them stand there holding hands, looking out the window, that I was like, it's a love story. This is.
It is in its own way.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not fireworks at the Eiffel Tower, is it?
Well, no, but it's
in their way.
She's realised he's fucked up. He's realised he's fucked up, but you know, he kind of matches with
And
her.
she is
Yeah,
too.
exactly. Yeah.
You know, the two of them are going to help each other. He's managed to connect with somebody finally.
Yeah.
You know, he's let go. I mean, I even wrote it in my notes. You know, as I was watching the scene, is shoot yourself and free yourself.
What?
That's what he did.
Okay.
He was controlled.
We need to ring Linda.
You know, he was controlled to some point that shooting himself, making that own decision to shoot himself, freed himself. You know, he was able to tell all the Project Mayhem members, you know, just go. Mm-hmm. You know, and I imagine that after the buildings have gone down, that they walk off. You know, the cops all turn up, but the two of them are able to get away. You know.
Well, I doubt the cops would go in that building anyway. I mean, they'll definitely get away, I'd imagine.
Yeah, but
because of the devastation that's been caused to the city, and who knows what effect that would actually have.
Yeah.
You met me at a very strange time in my life.
There's a lot of material and a lot of great scenes in the film. I would say the whole film, by and far, is a favourite scene. But if I had to pick a couple of key moments, I love the human sacrifices scene.
Yeah.
Where the two of them go to a
convenience store. Yeah.
And I think it is the character they pull out is Jerry. And
I think so, yeah.
And they're asking him, at gunpoint, what did he want to be? This is stuff. And it turned out that he wanted to be a veterinarian, but has given up college, given up university, and is now working a dead-end job. And so at gunpoint, he tells him that he needs to go and continue his degree in becoming a veterinarian, or within 6 weeks' time, he's going to turn up at his apartment because he's taken his driver's license and is going to shoot him and kill him. And as he goes running off, he explains to the narrator that tomorrow will be the best day of his life.
Yes.
His breakfast will taste better than anyone's that you've ever had.
Yeah.
And later on in the film, when one of the doors closes, just a brief moment, there is a wall of human sacrifices with all of their driver's licenses. And you're just like, that's a film in of itself, where Norton's going to all these different people and checking in on them, after all this time to see.
Isn't it?
Right, yeah. And I'm just like, it was just a really poignant moment. Again, it's like, I can't really believe that holding someone at gunpoint is going to make them go and fulfill their dreams or their ambitions. They're probably going to be an absolute wreck afterwards. But a part of you is just like, but maybe that is the old boot up the ass that you need to go and do something with your life.
Yeah.
So it's the tightrope. But that scene, very, very well done. I also love the support group sequences. They are depressing, and you feel awkward laughing during those sequences, but they're very well captured and handled with at least some humanity. And of course, the office, the breakdown where he's pleading with his boss to not beat him up whilst he beats himself up and smashes the office to pieces.
Yeah.
And that casual walk he has, walking out afterwards without a care in the world.
Yeah.
I would have loved to have done that in a couple of jobs I've had.
I like where they kidnap the police commissioner.
Yes.
Yeah.
I like it for several reasons. I like the very strong message that Tyler gives, that we empty your bins.
Yeah.
We keep the whole city going.
We watch you while you sleep.
We watch you while you sleep. And I think that it just shows the power, that revolutionary power, and that was one of the criticisms and the fears that was levelled against it. It's anti-authority, it's anti-establishment, and I think that scene gets it across really well.
The elastic around his balls.
I was just about to say, I love the hyper-realism, because that was the first time I noticed it, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And I taught this film for years and years and years, and I'm thinking, and I'm like, oh my God, it's the elastic. It's just those little touches, and I think that's a perfect example of how Fincher incorporates these just the minutiae, the detail.
Yeah, he's able to put something in the shot that you don't have to see, but your imagination just goes, whoa.
Absolutely. So that was one of my favourites as well as.
Very good. Yeah.
My favourites, I mean, I didn't even write them down, really. I was going to, but then as I started watching the film, I was like, this fucking film's great. Brad Pitt's sequences as Tyler Durden are fucking memorable. I'm just going to montage them, so you can see him. Edward Norton, he's the everyman character, but you don't want to be him. You want to be Tyler.
Yeah.
But just like Edward Norton's character, you're afraid to do that stuff because Tyler is so fucking uncontrollable,
He's uncontrollable in his simplicity, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
His message of, we need to hunter-gatherer.
Yeah.
We need to get back to basics. We're wrecking the planet. We're wrecking our species.
Yeah. It's just, he's just telling you what... Yeah. Weirdly enough, though, it's like he's telling you to let go and stop being controlled, but he wants to control you.
Yeah.
He gives you the assignments. He tells you the rules. He tells you what you can and can't do. And so it's like, so you want me to let go, but you just want me to grasp hold of something else. Why? Well, because you, at this point, are having trouble feeling alive. So you need this. And I think after the second time of the film, that's what kind of started my whole, I don't need it. I really don't. I don't like being controlled. But I'll fucking do it my own fucking way. Thank you very much. I'm not gonna abseil down the side of a building and blow out the windows, or piss in soup at some kind of guy's restaurant. I'm happy sat in front of my TV, just watching,
just consuming.
Yeah, just consuming. Because yes, Project Mayhem don't hurt anybody, but what you don't realize is when they blow up all those buildings and you wipe out the debt, all those people have now lost their jobs.
He's setting them free.
Yes, in his own way, though.
Yes,
against their will, against their own choice. He's telling them, "I'm setting you free." What happens if I don't want to be set free? What if I'm happy just being controlled?
Well, I mean, that for me is the whole film is just a great. It's high-end escapism.
Yeah.
You want to. Part of you does want it though.
But like I said, the main message for me is the love story between Marla and Edward Norton's character. She's just so beautiful. And you kind of just want to be with her, but she's got her own problems. And so if you, like Edward Norton's character, if you didn't have problems as well, you'd have just shunned her and sent her away. Like I said, with the whole Chloe thing, another person who was dying would be happy to spend time with her. But as everybody else is happy in their lives, they're just kind of like, no, go over there.
Social disconnect.
Yeah. But it's fucking amazing.
It is fucking amazing. I absolutely, highly, highly recommend Fight Club. I recommend it for its brutal depiction of anti-consumerism. I recommend it for its hyper-real, satirical, and humorous journey about self-discovery after an existential crisis. The schizophrenic characters exploring their masculinity after losing it, the internal battles of identity and conformity. The actors are all fantastic, and the music is a major part of the film, including parts of the editing where the music is spliced and edited in time with the film.
Yeah.
The music makes itself aware when it does that, when it pauses for a punch or a bit of dialogue before remixing itself back into the film.
Yeah.
The editing, the lighting, and the direction of the film is fantastic, and the sound design is also really, really good. From the punches to the blood splats, you hear and feel every single hit. It connects with you on an audible level as well as visual. The CGI camera work was also groundbreaking and memorable. The characters are great. The twist ending will stick with you forever. It's a fantastic film, and it holds up incredibly well today.
And it galvanises you into thinking. And I think that's really, really important.
Absolutely.
And you mentioned you're thinking about identity. You're thinking about, you have this liberal message of freedom that is corrupted through a fascist power-controlled. There's all kinds of angles that you can take with this.
It's
you can look at it from a
multi-layered.
Feminist perspective.
Oh, yes.
In terms of, have we really done this? There's all kinds of...
I'd like to see a women fight club, actually.
Yes, I'm sure you will.
Did you know there was a computer game for the PlayStation 2?
Cool.
Yeah. Bit of trivia for you. My turn. There was a fight club for the PlayStation 2, and it was basically just fighting. So you played this character who disconnected from his girlfriend, and he joins the fight club. And you just have to fight your way up the ranks until you get to Project. You get to
defeats
Project
the purpose
Mayhem.
of everything.
The game was a commercial absolute failure.
Of course,
because it like we said, there were no major levels to it. It was just let's have a look at the fighting sequences. But it was groundbreaking for its time. I mean, it had X-ray damages. It was bloody. It was gory. It had I think it had a hardcore mode that any injuries you sustained in fights, you would carry on to the next fight. So there could be a point where you wouldn't complete the game because your character has to retire. But sellouts, eh? Yeah.
Right.
Do you recommend it though?
Yes, over and over and over again.
Yeah.
Repeat viewings, definitely.
Yeah.
I don't recommend Fight Club. I don't think anybody should ever speak about it. I don't think you should ever talk about it. I think if you ever hear of Fight Club, you should just ignore it and go away.
Thanks for watching Off the Shelf Reviews.
Okay, You are now firing a gun at your imaginary friend near 400 gallons of nitroglycerin!